I'm going to go ahead and get started. Carrie, you're just going to keep looking for people popping in. Okay.
I am your boss. Gotcha. Your wingman, person, lady.
Thank you. I love having all these amazing faces. Welcome. Welcome to the Neuro Cohesion live question and answer. It's about as fancy as it gets. So I am, can you do it, Carrie? Can you see?
I got it.
So my name is Laura Cardwell. And if you don't know me, I know I see several familiar, lovely faces, but if you don't know me, I'm just going to do a quick intro, and then we're going to talk about the class. So I have had a varied history of different things that I have done in my life. And about, I guess, 10 years ago now, I started working in the field of energy medicine. I started doing brain integration, and then moved into more energetic kinesiology. And then that eventually led, training after training after training, led me to I'm currently enrolled and working on my doctorate at Quantum University. I'm also currently working to get to be part of teaching a class there. So that's really exciting. And so basically I've taken all of those things, all of that training, the past 10 years of depth of all the training. And I ended up creating Neuro Cohesion. So I'm going to talk a little bit about where that came from. And then we'll talk about the layout of the class. And then we will talk about what kind of questions you guys have. So first of all, Neuro Cohesion itself is about, came to me because I have all these different trainings. Like I just said, I have, I can't even count anymore how many different certifications I had and how many trainings I had and all of the different things. And in each one, I felt like I was getting a really important piece of a puzzle, but I continued to feel like I was missing kind of this overall picture of energy medicine as like kind of this whole picture. How does it all fit together? And I just had a deep sense that it would. I just felt that at some point it was all going to click, and that there must be a way to kind of see it as one whole picture. And I knew that I kept getting a sense of like, I'd get a training and it would go deep into like sleep pathways or anger pathways or all of these different pathways. And I just felt like I wanted to know how it all fit together. And so I was sitting by a lake and I was meditating and kind of always asking in my life, how can I be of service? What am I really here to do? And for those of you that don't know me, before I got into energy medicine as a whole, I was an art jeweler for many, many years, and I've had a couple careers before that. But between being an art jeweler and taking my first energy medicine class, I really went through this period of time of kind of questioning, who am I? What am I here to do? And at the time I was so tired. As a jeweler, I had grown too fast. I didn't have quite enough of a support team. And so I was really tired. And I was just looking at jobs that people looked really happy and they weren't overly committed and having to like do everything every day. And so I was interviewing at Trader Joe's I was like, I just want to, everybody at Trader Joe's is smiling at people all the time. And if all I meant to do is smile at people all day long, then great. But at the same time, I just kept having this sense of like, I was really here for a calling. And even though I didn't really understand what it was or where I was going, I knew that the next step was really important, that there was service to be done. I'm here for a reason and in service of something bigger than myself. And so at the same time, my youngest kiddo was going through a process called brain integration. And he was diagnosed with dyslexia really early. And so we were going through this process. He had a lot of ADD as well. And I had never really been exposed to energy medicine, but going through this process, I was seeing this man do this incredible work, and I was seeing amazing things at home, like shocking, miraculous things. And so I finally came back to him one day and I said, I think I would like to train in this. It feels really important, like it's really important work. And so he said, great, I've been waiting for you to say that. I'm moving to Florida. I'd like to sell you the company. And so it was all really happened really fast. And so I went to Colorado. I started my training. I came back and he mentored me. And I was quickly off and running doing brain integration, which immediately led to my first person who I couldn't really help because of the protocol does amazing things, but it's pretty specific. So the first person that showed up that didn't really fit inside of that left me with a lot of questions. And so I started looking for more classes, more information, and down the line. And so fast forward into this place of sitting by the lake and just knowing that this calling, that there's this next thing, there's this next thing for me in the world. And at the same time, people have been asking me for several years to teach. And I really struggled to teach because most of the modalities that I'm trained in, you can train to teach them, but it's kind of hard to get that training and it's not always consistent. And I was really careful about not wanting to teach intellectual property that belonged to other people. It was the Libra in me is pretty locked in on the ethics and the fairness, right? So it's like, so I was sitting by this lake and I was meditating, and it was really clear. The word neuro cohesion came through, and it was like this whole picture of things that I had been questioning all came together. And I was able to see in that meditation how the whole thing laid out. And so I sent an email to a couple people and I said, hey, I think I'm going to try and write and teach this class. Would you be interested in taking it? If I did that, I got a lot of great feedback. I got a lot of great response. And so the journey began, and it has taken me about 9 months to write it fully and bring it all together from that original day. So it's been this amazing journey. And now we're here and I get to just bring it into the world and share it with people. So that's a little bit about where it came from. Now I want to talk a little bit about what it is. So the idea of neurocohesion was really to create a comprehensive program that not only was it information, like the information about what you need, the depth of knowledge that you need, but that it also provided a platform for people to train to become a practitioner if they wanted to add some sort of energy medicine or vibrational medicine to their practice. And so I imagine that most of you that are here got here because you already have some sort of practice in a way. Or you're curious about having a practice. I know there's lots of different backgrounds. I think many of you are genius practitioners. I think others of you are doing all sorts of, I know I see some energetic kinesiologists here. I know I see a couple different modalities. So, and I know we have some life coaches as well. So it was really about creating a program that no matter what your modality, you could work with neurocohesion. I wanted to make sure it wasn't just exclusive to one modality, that you didn't have to know muscle testing or muscle monitoring in order to use it. However, if you do, you can take it and you can deepen your practice. You don't have to have a genius biofeedback to use it, but if you do, it comes with all the libraries that you need to move forward. And so, so the overall process means that it has, it teaches some different energy techniques throughout the process. If you're a genius practitioner, we will talk about the genius how to use it with your genius as we move through. If you're not, it does have some foundational energy medicine techniques so that you can also work with it and add it to your practice. But even if you don't want to add energy medicine at all, it is a great overall comprehensive way of viewing the energy and energy patterns that you can add to therapy practice. You can add it to a coaching practice. It is something that you can practice with other people, or you can practice it on yourself. It is a certified program in that you'll get a certification of completion at the end. And I am in the process of having it go through the board approval to have it approved on that level as well. So basically that's what I want you to kind of know. It was meant to to cover the whole thing. The next thing is that I wanted it to be affordable. In my world, I've spent at least $50,000 in trainings. And some of that has to do with my university training, but also just all of the different individual modalities I've trained in at, $900 a pop and $2,500 a pop. And so, and I am grateful for all of those things. And I wanted to create something that if you were just getting off the ground, it's $3,000 and you walk away from the 6 months with the knowledge that you need, the tools that you need, and an affordable investment in having your own thing, being able to move out into the world and help other people. And so I wanted it to stay in that range. So, so if you guys haven't been to the website, I'm imagining you couldn't have gotten here without at least going to the website, but, and we'll break it all down, but the cost of the program is $2,999, and it's a 6-month program. Okay, so that's the bones of what it is. So of the structure. So let's talk about what it is. So it opens the first 2 modules. Each module has between 5 and 10 lessons in it. So they're fairly deep. They take a while to kind of go through the different lessons. The first 2 modules really cover the history of energetic medicine, vibrational medicine, energy in general. We dive those first 2 modules, we'll dive deeply into, well, not too deeply, we'll get a good enough, we'll submerge ourselves in quantum physics, let's say that, making sure that we fully understand energy, how energy moves, how energy interacts, so that you kind of have an understanding of what you're doing when you're doing it. Because as you know, probably if you're here, quantum physics is the science of energy medicine, right? So, and so we want to lay that foundation. So the first 2 modules are foundational. And then we want to work with we're going to work with the 5 elements. So from the Chinese tradition, we're going to work deeply with the 5 elements, but we're going to overlay it with the 5 bodies of consciousness. And so if you don't know what the 5 bodies of consciousness are, that's are the energy bodies that make up our energetic field. So it starts with the bliss body being all one consciousness. That's the energy that is all oneness. And then that starts to filter into our physical form. So it becomes the supramental level being the level of our archetypes, our personalities, that can't really be accessed through with intellectual thought. We access the supramental more from the aha moment, as if you took a personality test and you learned a little something about yourself and you're like, oh, wow, this is that thing about me. This is how I show up in the world. So that archetypal level of who we are. The archetypes of our lives guide the mental level. So then we move into the mental body, which is all about neural pathways, how we think, so the supramental level becomes kind of the filter that creates perception. And it is through that perception that we create thoughts and emotions and feelings. And so at the mental level, we're looking at neural pathways. Now, this is my background. So we go pretty deep into neural pathways. We look at like the different, we'll look at the core emotion of each of those 5 elements, and then the neural pathways that go with it. We'll look at stress pathways. We will look at PTSD pathways. We look at how those things relate to anxiety and depression. We'll look at how they relate to different types of ADD. And so there's kind of a depth at the mental level, because how we think also governs. So if you guys have heard Joe Dispenza talk, but it's not just Joe Dispenza that kind of talks about it, but the idea that our thoughts kind of guide the neurochemistry, which guides what becomes the emotion, the energy in motion in your vital body. So you get that emote, and then that correlates to a feeling in the body. And so we'll learn how those are all collapsed at the same time when we talk about a collapse event in quantum physics, which again, module 1 and module 2, those things are collapsed at the same time. So a thought and an emotion and a feeling are all part of mind, and mind collapses all at one time. And so we'll look at the relationship between the mental field and the emotional field. That's that emotion, that's your meridians and your chakras. And we'll look at how energy moves in those systems, especially based on certain mental pathways. And then we look at the physical level. So the fifth body is the physical level. So that's how those show up as feelings in the body, how those show up as symptoms in the body, different systems that might get out of balance as it relates to the whole archetype of the element. So we take that's the 5 bodies of consciousness. That's the bliss body, the supramental, the mental, the vital, and the physical body. And then we take that and we break it down for each of the 5 elements. So if you guys don't know much about 5 element theory, that's kind of it comes from ancient Chinese tradition, technically it comes from Chinese astrology, but it's the observation of how energy moves in the universe, the patterns of the universe. And so we'll look at each one of the elements, which are, we'll look at fire, we'll look at earth, we'll look at metal, we'll look at water, and we'll look at wood. So we're looking at the Chinese 5 elements, which are a little bit different than other 5 elements that are in the world. So we'll break each one of those down. At the spiritual level, we'll look at what they call the 5 phases in Chinese tradition. So that's the spiritual aspect of each element, or the spiritual aspects and how the elements relate to them. And then again, like I said, we'll go through each level. The supramental, we'll look at all the archetypes of, let's say, fire. We'll look at the wizard as an archetype, but we'll also look at the archetypes of the meridians, the archetype of the root chakra. So we'll look at some of those archetypal levels of what's going on, and then how that guides how we think. So we'll look at the thought patterns. At the fire level, we'll look at how that relates to ADD. We'll look at that at how it relates to stress pathways in the body, to the amygdala and the stress response. We will also then move into the emotional level. So, the emotion of fire is joy, for example. So, I mean, the main emotion is joy or lack thereof. And so we'll look at like how emotions move in the system. And then again, we'll look at the physical response. So a fire element is often has a physical response that is associated to stress pathways. And so we'll look at how those things all show up in the physical body. And we move through each one of the elements, breaking it down like that. So for each module that is a whole element, there are many lessons inside where we break all of that down. Then once we've moved through the 5 elements and all of that information, we move into the more applicable side. So looking at how those elements work in relationship to each other, what's going on if you have a fire imbalance, how does that affect wood? How does that affect earth? How does that affect metal? How does that affect water? So you can see, you begin to see how you're looking for patterns. And so overall, by the time you're through the whole course, what you're really getting is this really comprehensive overview, the kind of the backed out view, as well as this really incredibly deep information about each one of those things, so that you can begin to work with the patterns that someone is experiencing. And if you're genius biofeedback practitioners, this has been something that I've gotten feedback quite a bit from people that I've worked with and people that are in the community, is that they are learning a lot about hormone systems, and they learn a lot about digestion, and they learn a lot about balancing chakras or even balancing meridians, but they're having a hard time sometimes seeing how it all fits together, finding the pattern. Because as you know, if you're a genius practitioner, when you run that on someone and you open it and you see all of those things, that can be kind of overwhelming. And so this is a way for you to begin to work with that system. Again, if you're not a genius practitioner, I will also be teaching other energy modalities inside of that, some energy techniques that you can be using to help move the energy as you find the patterns. We'll teach you how to do assessments so that you can kind of ask the right questions of your clients and get the right information so that you know what's out of balance and you can begin to work with it. It will also help you. So if you are someone who works in the coaching realm, we will add in some basic hypnotherapy techniques and some ways to ask the right question and move really particular energy while you do it, so that your clients can go deeper. And you're creating a safer environment as they do that. They can feel more and more relaxed going into it, and able to open up and move a ton of energy that often gets stagnant in the body. So you'll walk through the whole process. And so if you're not a Genius practitioner, you will learn other modalities that you can use. And if you already know other modalities, then the whole thing was written for you to be able to synthesize. I, by nature, am a synthesizer. I have always been the kind of person who takes in information, puts it all together, immediately doesn't do what they told me to do, and added this other thing, which I think is also awesome. And I wanted to do it at the same time. And so I encourage synthesizing. So if you know a lot of other modalities, if you know something else, you can always be asking the body, do I need to do this other thing? Do I keep going where I am, or do I need to add in something else that I know? So if you know Reiki, or if you know energetic kinesiology, if you're an applied neurologist, if you know any of these extra or all of these different energy modalities, you can always be synthesizing and pulling them in. Okay, I think that's the general bones of the program. So I want to take a breath, because that was a lot of talking right at you. And I'm going to let that settle for a second, but then I want to kind of hear from you guys. What kind of questions do you have about the protocol, about neurocohesion itself? We'll talk before we close up about next steps and when it starts and all of those things. But do you have any questions about what it is and how it works? And you can just unmute yourself and start talking. I'll try and find you.
Do you have like a sample of some of the modules that we can take a look at?
Absolutely. So what I think I will do, somebody else asked me actually that earlier today. And I think the easiest thing for me to do is to email you guys the itinerary of the class, and then let you see some of those modules, let you see the depth of where it goes. And then I also can send a couple clips from a couple different recordings from class, so that you can see how that goes as well. The other thing that I wanted to say to that, and this is a good place to put it in case I forget later, is that over the next couple of weeks, so this particular round will start at the end of February. So over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to try and do a couple demos on my YouTube channel for people. So I will also email you guys and let you know that I'm going to do some demos so that you can see it in action. Because really, it's very hard to explain, as all modalities are. It is more seeing it in action and seeing all of the pieces.
Laura, we've got a question in chat. Is it
Yes.
self-paced, or is there a schedule? Will there be tests?
Great. So this next cohort is scheduled. So this cohort that we're getting ready to start at the end of February will be scheduled out. So there'll be 2 classes per month. And then there'll also be times where we will have open office hours where you can come just ask questions. And we will also have some places where you guys can meet up and work on each other, so that you can be doing the work as well. But you can generally think that this one is 6 months and 2 classes a month. And then we are finishing up, hopefully in the next month or 2, we will have it so that it can be self-paced. But right now, I really like the idea of having people be able to come into the live teaching and ask questions. So all of that is recorded. You get all of the recordings as you go. There'll be a community where you can always be, so you don't actually have to come to the classes. If that's hard, you can watch the recorded classes and you'll get all the copies of that and things like that. But but we would encourage you guys to try and come to some, because it's really helpful to be present and learning in real time when we can. Did that answer? I think that answered the question.
It did. There was a question about dates or times. Do you know what those are yet? And what's the end result?
Okay, so dates and times. So the kickoff for this one is February 24th, which is a Thursday. So that will be at 4 p.m. on that Thursday. And that the kickoff is really where we get to meet the other people in the class and just kind of lay the foundation of creating the container, who's there, contracts, all that kind of stuff, you know. And then your first class is starts in March. So March 10th will be the first class, and it's every other Thursday. One Thursday will be in the morning at 9 a.m. and one will be in the evening at 4 p.m. And I think the first one is, hold on, I'll look.
And that's all EST, right?
Oh yeah, EST. So the March 10th one, the first one is a morning class. It'll be at 9 a.m. EST. And then
Oh, yeah, that's 6 in the morning California time.
exactly. Well, so I do want you guys to know we have people from all over the world in this Zoom and also in the class. So there's one in the morning and one in the evening for that reason. So you don't have to be, I realize it's hard to be at each one. And that's why we made them at 2 different times so that you could make one. So the next one, the later one in March then, which is the 24th, will be the one that's at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which should fit better. Like that way, doing it that way seems to get most people in a time that's doable. So, but because the first time I taught it, I didn't really think about people being, I wasn't really thinking about people being everywhere. And then I had people that were in the UK and they were like, that's really late. And I was like, oh, so maybe we should do one in the morning. So, so yeah, they'll be stacked that way, morning, evening, morning, evening, morning, evening. And then I will also try and move around some of the, we'll have set office hours that will be every week on Wednesday afternoon, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, that anybody can come and ask questions. Anybody can come and go to a breakout room and work on people if they'd like. But we will also try and create some different times for people in different time zones. We just haven't figured, that depends on who's in the class and what time zones we're working with. Carrie, what was the other question?
The other question was, what is the actual end result of this modality?
Okay,
Reset?
so I think I know who asked it? Ruth. Okay, so Ruth, I think I know what you're asking, but do you mean for yourself as a practitioner or what your clients can expect?
There we go, clients. I
was like, I think that word's supposed to be clients. So clients, okay. So so let me think about the best way to answer that. So for me, the way that I see what my clients get from Neuro Cohesion is that they're able to make true transformation. So I often get people that are stuck in a diagnosis, let's say anxiety, depression, ADD, or they're stuck in a relationship. They're stuck not being able to move forward in their life for some reason. And they're really ready to transform. They're really ready to change the energy of who they are so that they can create a different future. It is my belief that as energy practitioners, we're not really here to heal their past or to fix their problem. We're really here to move the energy so that they can create a new future. And there are lots of different ways that can be done. But if we keep trying to help them fix their past, then they're staying in their past. So what you're really doing is you're going to nod your head to the past, right? Like you're looking at like, oh, this is the past. This is affecting your present moment, but only enough so that you're moving the energy around it so that they can start to envision and create a new future. So what you're really talking about, the end result of neurocohesion is transformation, no matter what that looks like. So if you're ready to move on from anxiety, if you're ready to move on from depression, if you're ready to move on from that relationship, you want to start your new career, you want to find that soulmate, whatever it is that's getting you stuck, you're really going to be working with them with this process in order for them to move forward. That said, you may have, sorry, I have hair in my mouth and that's really unprofessional, but I'm doing it anyway. You guys will learn I'm just as silly as I am professional. So you will be working with, like, people will come to you or people come to me, and I have the whole range. I have people that come in because of anxiety, and I have people that come in because of back pain. I have people that come in because they're stuck in a relationship that's not serving them. And so the whole gamut. I see people for hormones as much as I see people for a life transformation. It's always kind of the same process. I'm looking at that pattern of their life, all of the different archetypes and how they're in relationship to each other to help that person move forward. So I want to, this is a good time, Ruth, to also say there's kind of a difference between what we would call restorative work, which is someone has a sleep issue and they want help to fall asleep. You may need to do some restorative energy work to help them start sleeping. So you're kind of working with the surface level symptom when you're doing restorative work. Sometimes restorative work moves enough energy that deeper stuff actually moves as well, but sometimes it doesn't. It might just be symptom based. When we do, in my own personal practice, I practice neurocohesion with my clients, and I personally call it alchemical coaching, which is really about transformation. You're getting to that. I am doing your restorative work. If you're having a hard time sleeping, we're helping you sleep. And simultaneously, we're going deeper into the bigger pattern behind why you're not sleeping. What's going on? Maybe it's a fire imbalance. Maybe it's a different type of imbalance, but there's something going on that's creating the disruption for your sleep. So on one hand, we're helping you sleep with frequencies or energy medicine. And on the other, we're digging at that bigger pattern of why you don't sleep. What's the overall picture? And so, yeah, it's like really getting to those deeper layers. So yes, so you got your answer. So alchemical coaching is how I talk about it. You can call it, there are people, in the first class that are kind of coming out of that, and they're just they're doing neurocohesion. You can do that if you want to, as long as you're talking about it in a way that really talks about the fact that there's this double thing that's happening. You have the tools that you need to do this restorative work, but you are also able to go do the deeper work that it takes to create sustainable change so that you don't have to keep. So if you think about like going to the acupuncturist, I personally have an amazing acupuncturist who I love deeply. And so sometimes acupuncturists are taught the whole picture of 5 elements and 5 phases, and that's Taoist acupuncture, right? But there's a lot of acupuncture, especially in the United States, that doesn't really work with that deeper alchemical level. They kind of stay at the surface level of the 5 elements, that you go and you get enough support to release the pain or enough support to help balance the hormones, but not necessarily looking at that deeper level. So this process lets you see the bigger pattern so that you can work at both levels at the same time with your clients.
Take a breath.
Thanks.
And Claire had a question about testimonials from people who have had results with their clients. I know Amanda earlier said, hey, do you want to talk to an actual client that has received this? I'm assuming she's meaning herself. So those were some of the questions that were also there.
Yeah, yes. I'm going to let that be for this moment. I'm going to let that be Amanda first. And then there are some other people if they choose to volunteer and talk about their experience. But Amanda, would you want to talk to it a little bit?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So I want to make sure I understand, Claire, you just want to hear testimonials from folks who have had results with this modality. Is that accurate? I started working with Laura over a year ago and have been in therapy and have worked with a coach and came to Laura kind of recognizing that I still needed to kind of go deeper into some healing that needed to happen, and have been able to confront some childhood trauma that has allowed me to quit my job that I've been trying to do for 3 years, and kind of tend to my nervous system in that process. So when she talks about transformation, it is that I've been able to work with myself in such a way to create a safe space to make changes happen in my life.
Thanks. That was very even cohesive.
Laura also said she would be happy to share anything. Laura Hall.
Yeah, so from a practitioner point of view, I think what Laura's, she doesn't really give herself enough accolades because her true talent isn't just what she teaches us, but it's really the observation from a practitioner point of view of walking through, whether it be a client-based or a group-based healing situation, her skill and what you learn through just her constant sharing with us how she actually works with particular clients. It's bar none. It is absolutely one of the best things. So from a particular practitioner point of view, I have a client who has tinnitus. And if I hadn't taken this course, there was no way that I would have been able to really assist him in his work, because now it really is getting to that deeper level of what has happened in his past. And something she always shares in class is like, you can ask somebody if they're okay and they say yes, and by the second time, yeah, they're fine. And by the third time that they answer the question, well, yeah, my mother just died. So it's unraveling and getting to that deeper level at a much quicker space. So, and then from a personal point of view, I found Laura when I first purchased the Genius back in February of this year, or of last year. And she was on one of the panels that we were doing, a special event. Ariel had put it on. I was also on the panel as well because I started using the Genius right away and started assisting with some friends and family, and it turned out like it kind of exploded. But I hired Laura specifically to work with me because I was so intrigued with the process that she works with particular clients. And that was kind of really the beginning of saying, oh my gosh, what an incredibly talented, gifted person. And I need to learn as much as I can from her. So I was fortunate enough to be in the very first go around. And I will tell you by far, it's the best class that I have ever taken. And the additional reading, which she hasn't had enough time to go into, that there's a whole host of additional things that you will learn and experience. But just the reading alone, it's just mind-blowing what you will learn as a personal practitioner. I mean, you may have clients that you've worked with for years, but this will just take that to the next level.
Thanks, Laura. So does that help people to kind of have a sense that we're looking for a little bit of a sense of it's, again, it is always more, especially when you're doing any kind of healing modality, it's really more experiential, like to have that moment of like, oh, I see what you're doing. So we will do some demos. And I will make sure that you guys are on the email list and so that you can kind of join and see that. I see there is a question about how much it deals with the Genius and not Genius. I try really hard to make sure that both are fully supported. So if you are a Genius practitioner, all of the libraries are there. You will get all of the libraries for all the different elements. There's over, I think it's 25 libraries, but then each one of those libraries is pretty comprehensive for the level that it is. And so, so you will get all of these libraries that will help support you. And we will talk about Genius processes, but I also try and just as much talk about different modalities. Now, that said, I want to say something here. I teach inside this course as many energy techniques as I can that I'm allowed to teach you based on intellectual property. There are many things that are out there that you can learn, and I will point to, I will nod my head to like, hey, if you know this thing, maybe this is a great place for you to do this thing, but that I cannot talk about or teach. So like in the first class, there was a question about inception point therapy, which is a beautiful thing, but I cannot talk about it, nor can I teach it, because that's intellectual property that belongs to someone else. So I am very careful to make sure that what I can talk about more deeply, I will. And if I can't, I will let you know, like, hey, you may want to learn more about this thing that you could be doing here. Because it's really important to me, the integrity of intellectual property and copyright. And in this realm, it's also really easy to like step on toes. And so this whole process, I may talk about some things and say, hey, there's these other amazing modalities, but I won't go into depth. And if you guys, like what the first class ended up doing was meeting outside of class and talking about it amongst themselves. And so we will give you opportunities for that in the group side. And I want to point to one other thing. I know I want to answer all the questions, but I want to answer one other thing that I haven't gotten to yet, which is a major thing about this particular program, is that I wrote it. So if you guys know me, I talk all the time about group healing and group medicine, right? And so, and that I personally am on a mission and believe that the future of medicine, we will see a lot more group healing happening, because the research now shows, right? Like it's always been there, but now we have 25 years of Lynn McTaggart researching, plus other researchers who have really begun to be able to show us with a big body of evidence, the difference between doing one-on-one healing and doing group healing. And so this modality was written so that you can continue to do one-on-one practices with people, but that you will also learn to be holding and working with groups. That's another reason why this next round is still scheduled and not self-paced, because your nervous system has to get ready to handle holding a group. Not that you're holding them yourself, because you're not, but it is a bigger thing to be working with a group than one-on-one. And so making sure that you're ready for that, making sure that you're in classes and that your nervous system is expanding and ready is part of the process. So that when you step into working with a group, which is not only beneficial to the group, but it also helps you to grow your business, right? So there is the side of that where you can be seeing more than one person at a time, which really helps you not fall into that burnout stage of working with one person at a time. So groups, that you will learn how to take Neuro Cohesion and work with groups as well. And you don't have to. There are lots of people that choose not to, right? That they like their one-on work, but if you want to move into the modality of being able to work more with groups, we will also learn how to take Neuro Cohesion and work in a group. I want to make sure I had a chance to say that. Okay, what other questions are in here?
Mindy asked, was there a cap to the group?
Yes, so the right now I haven't quite decided. I've had it at 20, but I think we can probably handle 30. So the cap will be at 30. I think. And if I change that, it may drop to 25, but I think we can handle 30, especially because this time I have some support, and I'll be able to, people will be able to watch the chat and things like that. The biggest thing is me being able to get to everybody, answer questions, and everybody getting to have some experience with it as well. So yes, the answer, Mindy, is the very long-winded answer, as if you haven't figured out that that's how I answer things, is 20 to 30. Laura, you asked.
I was just talking about the Facebook group that you have, just also to support all of you.
Yes.
She's helping you out and supporting you.
Thank you, Laura, for reminding us. There's, I am looking at doing it 2 ways and seeing which one works better. We've had a group discussion that was private through the website in this first cohort that didn't go well. So I've been researching 2 different ones. And we will either be using Mighty Networks or we'll be using Facebook. I think we will use Mighty Networks for your class, because I can post things in there and we can keep it really, it'll work really well. I've been in a couple Mighty Networks groups that I really love, because it's meant to do this. It's meant to create community. And so, and a lot of people are really anti-Facebook at the moment. And so I don't want to pull any of that in. And so, so I haven't quite decided what platform we'll use. We will either have a Facebook discussion group or we will have Mighty Networks. But I think probably what we will have is a little bit of both, where this cohort will have their Mighty Networks and we will have an ongoing Facebook group for people to be talking to each other and engaging on the Facebook side. Let's see. Oh, testing. Somebody asked me about testing. So we are working on, at the end of each lesson, there'll be a little quiz. So that just, the quiz is not hard, and it's really to make sure that you've got the key points. And it's the kind of thing that will ask you again until you get it right. It's not about passing or failing. It's more about the part where you just make sure that you understood the module. But as of right now, we don't have that fully set up. I'm working on it. So you may or may not have test questions as you move through. But there will be at the end, it's not a test so much, not a comprehensive test so much as I will ask you to do some case studies, and then we'll review them together to make sure that you really get the concepts and that you're really working with it the way that you can, that to make sure there's no pieces missing in your knowledge. Okay, is that all the questions that are in the chat?
That's it.
Awesome. Does anybody else have any other questions? So, oh, libraries.
You mentioned-
Wait, I'm sorry. Ask your question.
No, I was just gonna say, along with the testing, once you get it certified, and I'm asking where you're getting it certified with, then I'm assuming testing would follow with that.
Yes. So once if it gets approved for accreditation, then yes, it will.
Who does that fall under?
It'll fall under the Board for Natural Health, and so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So then if we go through it the one time, like, would we have that option to add that in there or
Yes.
do that?
So
Okay.
that's a question that I made sure I asked as I've been going through the process is anybody who's had it already, can they get the accreditation even if they didn't, even if they had it a year ago? And once it passes for accreditation, and she said yes. So you may have to review because you will probably have to take an exam, but but yes, you will always be eligible to get the accreditation. And the CEUs, I guess, so I don't understand that part so much, the whole CEU side of it, but yes, you'll be able to get the CEUs for it once that goes through as well. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. How do we sign up and things like that?
Yeah, so let's talk about the next steps. So the payments scheduled, there's two different ways. You can make a one-time payment and you get 15% off, or you can make 3 payments. Both of those links are on the website. If you go to the Learn More page, you can register now. Those links, I just got them up today on there because I didn't want anybody registering before this call because I wasn't ready. So, so they're up now though. So you can choose which way, choose your own adventure, if you want to do the one time or if you want to break it up into 3 payments. I will cut off registration when it fills or I think I set it for February 12th is the last day to register so that I have time to get some things out to the people that are going to be taking the class. So does that accreditation apply to everyone outside of the US? That is a great question, Claire. I don't know, but I imagine that the Natural Health Board will be able to answer that question for me. So I will ask that question and get it back to you. And then, so the last thing is that as soon as we hang up, as soon as the event ends on the website, you should get an email that will have the registration links as well. So you can also check your email, but if not, you can go back to the Neuro Cohesion page and register. Was there another question?
No, it was Carrie just typing the date, last day.
Okay. I feel like that's the things that you need to know. Does
There is
anybody-
one more question. There is one more question, Laura, that came in. Usually, how much time do you take per patient?
Oh, gotcha. So for me, when I'm working with somebody one-on-one, I usually book them for an hour and 15-minute sessions. Sometimes we go over by a lot. Sometimes we don't. I always check with my clients if we're going to go over and say, hey, we're going to go over, is that okay? But so you're looking at doing between an hour and an hour and a half per session, depending on what you're working on and how deep they go. How many hours are the classes? Oh, that's a great question that I didn't answer. So I find that you really need to have 2 hours. So we're going to meet twice a month for 2 hours, because I originally tried to meet for an hour and a half, and we can't really get through teaching, questions, and a demo in an hour and a half. So this round will be 2 hours. We may finish early some of those nights, but we've yet to finish early because there's lots of great information and we do a lot of great demos. And so everybody's getting to have a chance to do that work.
How much do you typically charge patients?
So you have to, that's really a personal decision on, there is no set price that a neurocohesion practitioner needs to charge, because everybody lives in a different dynamic and everybody has a different relationship to money. I personally have charged everywhere between $75 in a session to $242 a session. So there's a big range in there. I have for many years been in the $125 to $155 range. I just recently went up to 242, but that's because I only have a few sessions a week to see clients because I'm teaching and I'm also involved in a couple other things. So it's really a personal choice. There are other people in these kinds of practices that charge way more than that, depending on what you're bringing to the table. So it's really about your own background. It's about what you feel comfortable with. It's about your demographic. But I really encourage everybody to start off at least $100 a session and then go from there. I mean, you don't have to start at 100, but don't go below that because the training is worth it. So by the time you walk away from that, you're worth every penny of $100 for a session. So
are the modules separate from the classes for reading, etc.?
So the modules are like, let's say there's a module on the fire element, and then inside that module, there are 5 lessons on the fire element. So you'll have a different lesson for each body of consciousness. And we are working on, there's a lot of like, I will point to a book or I will point to a video, but we're working on a matching reading list so that you'll get the reading list before the module so that you can start, you can match your reading to the lesson as well. In general, I mean, it depends on how deep you want to go. You could just come to class and read the PDFs and get a ton. Or you could also invest another 5 hours a week in reading and go really deep. It's really up to you. And I will point to all of it. It's really up to you how much you get out of it by how deep you want to go. There'll be a lot of extra reading materials if you want them. No, they're not required. Everything you need will be in the PDFs. But if you want to learn more and gather more resources, that'll all be there as well.
That's it.
All right. Okay. Any last questions before we wind it up for the evening?
Laura, I would just add in, within all of the modules, there are many links that you'll also be directed toward to just further your knowledge as well.
Yeah, I am a information fiend. Like I live for more knowledge. It's one of my kinks in my life is knowledge. And so I will, and then I love to share it. I actually just took an archetype thing that was like, pretty much that's my life, is I want to learn deeply so that I can share it with everyone. And so I read books like candy, and I will be pointing to them a lot, but I might also be pointing to other people's intellectual property as well. So I saw a couple more things. Will all the modules and libraries be a complete coverall and be able to answer all probability? Claire, I'm not quite sure.
I think your question was like, will I have access to this after the 6 months are done?
Oh,
I know that was definitely one right above it.
Yes. Well, one, you will get a PDF of every lesson, so you can be saving those as you go, so that you have copies. And then I don't know about class access on the back end, because I'm not sure about the class platform yet. We had to take it out of the first class platform was an epic fail. By the way, Wix class platform's not so great yet. So, and so we haven't quite decided what platform we're using for cohort 2. It may just be emails and Mighty Network, just so you know. But you will get a hard copy, a PDF of every single lesson for you to keep forever. And then there will be a place like we have a Google Drive, a shared Google Drive with all the videos that you will always have access to.
It was about, will we have answers to all the challenges that our clients are presenting us with coming out of here?
But that's a tall order. And what you're really coming out with is a comprehensive way to look at patterns. And so if you're working, knowing that everyone is energetic first, and then they have a physical symptom last, right? Remembering that there's this whole energetic picture and then it manifests as something physical, then you should be able to work with most issues because you're looking at the pattern on the energetic level. I am not claiming that you're going to be able to heal everybody's disease. I'm not claiming that you're going to heal anything, because we're not doctors, so we're not going to diagnose or heal or treat anything. What we're really doing is helping the body find homeostasis so that it can heal itself, so that then people are able to create a new future. So it's really not about necessarily healing their old thing. It's about getting their body in enough of a balance so that they can create the life that they want to have. I've yet to have somebody bring me something that I haven't been able to work with that on this level using this modality, but I can't claim that you will know everything, because you won't, because it's deep, but it's more of the overview. And so you may have to add additional information. Like if you really want to work with people that have pain, for example, then we're going to talk about some pain pathways, but you may have to learn more and add it in as you go. So, so yes, and is my answer to you. Okay. Okay. Did we get?
We're good.
Okay. I think we did it. And we did it at 6 o'clock. We did so good. I didn't even go way over.
Nope. You're great.
All right. So you should get an email as we hang up with registration links. If not, you can find those registration links on the website. And I will probably email you at some point in the next couple of weeks, again, with the registration links. It will be capped somewhere between 20 and 30 people. So just know that not to wait too long, but that's okay. We'll just create a wait list for the next round. So, so if you don't make it to this one, then we'll put you on the top of the wait list for the next one. Okay, you guys are welcome to email me directly. It's Laura Cardwell, QIW, with question@gmail.com with any questions that you have, because questions might come up between now and the first day. And I think that's it, y'all. So thank you for being here, showing up for this. And I will get this recording posted. If you have friends that you want to share it with, or you have other colleagues that you'd like to share, this recording will get posted up on the website so that you can share. And I hope to see you all very, very soon. Thank you for being here.